Hello, welcome to episode 3 of Achieving Maximum Effectiveness. This week we're going to talk about public speaking, which I know is a big fear for a lot of people. So stick around, I'm going to give you some top tips that I think will really help.
A Kangaroo Fern production.
Hi, welcome to Public Speaking. I'm Paul from Personal Best. And this week we're going to discuss what I think is most people's number one fear in the world of business is being asked to speak in front of groups of people, doing public speaking. You know, and look, there's lots of contexts in which this can come up. It might be you're asked to give a training session for your peers. Maybe you're asked to do a presentation for the board or for in a group. Maybe you're being asked to deliver a little talk at a conference, and look, it might only be 10 minutes, might be an hour, but you're thinking about all those people looking up at you, and you're worried that you're not going to be any good, and you're terrified about how it's going to go. So I do a lot of public speaking in my role, and I have for years and years and years. So I'm just going to share with you over the next few minutes some quick top tips that really work well for me, and I know they'll work well for you too if you're prepared to give them a go. And look, there's only 5 of them at the moment for today. There's a lot more to this subject, of course, but I think this will really get you started. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is what I think is the number one trick with public speaking, and it's not really a trick at all. The biggest mistake most people make, which is what causes a lot of their fear and anxiety, is they worry about being good. I would put to you that rather than worrying about being good, worry about focusing on the message and on the person receiving the message. So again, don't worry about you, worry about the message and the person receiving the message. So if you really focus hard on what is it I'm trying to deliver, can I get this out with maximum clarity? Will people be able to understand it? And I really care about these people that I'm talking to. I really want them to hear what I have to say because it'll really benefit them. You'll be amazed how much that frees you up in terms of, I have to do this and I have to do that. Now, don't worry, I'm going to give you some other tips as well that will make you look and sound good. But if you put all that aside, if you think about your normal life and maybe just chatting to your friends at a social function, maybe it's at a barbecue or who knows, you might be catching up with them at the movies or you're going shopping. You always sound good, you always look good. Because you're just chatting, you're relaxed, you're talking about something that you know about, and you are caring about the people that you're talking to. This same thing is what translates really well into public speaking. Focus on the message and the people that you're talking to, and it just seems to work. Even if you flub a few words or you stutter a bit, like I'm no doubt going to stutter a bit in this video and make a few mistakes as well. But it doesn't matter, because people don't care about you being good, they care about what they can learn from talking to you. So that's the first one. Now let's talk about what makes people sound interesting. Variety. If you're able to vary your volume, your tone, your pitch, and your pace when you're talking, it will just make you a little bit more interesting to listen to. So by volume, I mean how loud or how soft you talk. Pitch is high and low, and again, it's what's appropriate when you're talking. So naturally, we have different pitch inflections in the way we talk. So you don't have to sort of deliberately talk, but by using different levels of pitch, you sound more natural, just like you would when you're talking to someone, as I said, in a social event. Tone of voice is all around the way your voice comes across in terms of it is your volume, it is your pitch, but it's also the parts of your throat, your mouth, your tongue you use when you're talking. And again, not to overthink it, but the more variety that comes into that speech, the more it'll be interesting to listen to from an audio point of view. And the last one is pace. Now, I can tell you, I personally suffer from the affliction of talking too fast, but when I'm talking to people, I really make an effort to slow down, give them time to digest each point. And don't worry, when I'm up talking in front of people, say doing a conference keynote, I get excited, I get into what I'm talking about, and and I can rush what I'm saying and I can hear myself doing it, but that's okay. It's not the end of the world. I'll just stop, pause, slow down, and you can seed that in. So if you're emphasizing certain points, you can stop between each point to get the message across a bit more. When you practice this sort of stuff, it can seem artificial, but it comes across really, really well when you're talking to groups of people, I can absolutely promise you. Okay, the third area, so I've talked about your voice and mixing that up. The third area is being visually interesting. Now, does that mean you need to have a 400 slide, fully animated PowerPoint presentation going behind you when you talk to people? No, it absolutely does not. If you've got that, that's cool. But being visually interesting is all about giving people something to look at that has a bit of variety to it. So for example, using hand gestures to indicate certain things. You might be talking about company results, and you can use your hands to describe an improvement in performance over a period of time. So simple little things like that work really, really well. If you do have visual aids, they're absolutely fantastic to use as well. Colour's great. Animations are good, but if you don't have them, again, it's not a problem. You can walk up onto a stage with a blank piece of paper and a marker, and you can illustrate certain points by drawing shapes, graphs, even if you've got terrible handwriting like me. It just gives people something different to look at. If you're able to, you can vary where you are on a stage, so you can walk from left to right. You can if you have a chair, you can sit, you can stand. A great thing to do is as you progress through a talk, let's say you're talking about a topic for 10 minutes, you can start sitting and then you can move to a standing position, and then from standing you can move to walking around. So these are all things you can do. It just becomes visually interesting. People are looking at different stuff all the time. Fourth tip, this is a really good one too, and one I've definitely lived, and maybe some of you have too. Always assume your technology won't work and the time you're given to talk is going to change. And what I mean by that is, from the time frame point of view, I'm preparing a half-hour talk. I've been told I've got half an hour. I get to the conference or the meeting where I'm going to talk, and they say, "Hey, Paul, look, really sorry, but our previous speaker ran over time. Can you get through your talk in 15 minutes?" Now, that happens to people all the time. My general rule of thumb is, if you're going to do a presentation, it might be a sales presentation, it might be, like I said, a presentation to a boardroom, have whatever time you've been allocated, have that version, and then have one that's half as long, and then have one that's 5 minutes. And if you can do your presentation in each of those versions, you'll be able to cope with whatever comes along. In terms of technology, assume the PowerPoint won't work, the laptop won't work, the books that you had prepared didn't get to the people who were supposed to get them for whatever reason. Just assume that's going to happen. And that way, if and when it does happen, which realistically is maybe one time in 100, but it does happen from time to time, if that does happen, then you can handle it. It's not perfect, it's not ideal, it might be mildly annoying, but you can still get through your presentation. Remember, your PowerPoint's not important, your workbooks aren't important, your colourful handouts that you had aren't important. What's important is the message and the people that you're delivering the message to. If you can get that across, the other stuff is nice to have, not essential to have. Fifth tip, practice. Particularly if your talk is something that you aren't going to give often, but it might be a one-off presentation that you have to give, you're only going to get one shot at it. So my advice is practice it a lot before you do it. Who do you practice it in front of? The mirror. A person that you really trust, maybe your partner at home, maybe a cat or your dog, maybe a trusted work colleague. Practice, practice, practice. The more you practice it, the better you're going to feel, because you are going to be a little bit nervous when you do the presentation, and that's okay. In fact, it's perfectly normal. If you weren't a little bit nervous, it means the stakes aren't that high, which means the presentation isn't that important. So nerves are cool, but practicing means, even with a bit of nerves, and you're going to make a few mistakes, and you're going to stutter, you're going to stammer, you're going to pronounce a word wrong, you'll still get through it because you've done the work, you've done the preparation, you care about the message and the recipient. So, thanks for listening. I'm just going to go over my 5 points again. The first one was, focus on the message and the recipient, not yourself. You'll just be awesome simply by focusing on the message and the recipient. The second one, vary volume, pitch, tone, and pace of your voice. The third one, be visually interesting, visual variety. Different kinds of visuals work really, really well. Fourth, assume your technology won't work, and assume the time you're given will be cut in half or maybe less. And be prepared for that. Fifth, practice, practice, practice. And the key there is don't practice until you can get it right. Practice until you almost can't get it wrong. Too much practice is never enough. Thank you very much for listening. Hope those tips really helped. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you found this video helpful, and if you did, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell when you're notified when a new episode is posted. If you found value in this show, please review this episode and share it with your friends. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to reach out to us.